Stephen Hinshaw's book, The Triple Bind, selects body language building, the education challenge, the sex scandal, and friendship bullying as some of the key war pressures disfavoring gender equality from becoming a global reality today. Well, this year marks the 20th anniversary since the Great Beijing Meeting of accelerating the empowerment of women and the girl child in particular. And 20 years after, the anniversary is greeted by a global outrageous story coming from Nigeria, the kidnapping of over 200 schoolgirls at Chibok. That in itself is a major worry concerning the safety and fate of our girls who are expected to contribute to the growth of humanity. And it is an issue which has been orchestrated by forces, retrograde forces, ready to take us behind even when our intention is to move forward. So, what does the Chibok kidnapping tell of the safety and security of girls today across the world? My guest today on Globewatch is a top official from the United Nations entity in charge of gender equality, UN Women, simply called that way. Josephine ODERA, welcome to Globewatch.
Thank you very much.
African First Ladies are known as very generous women dedicated to the promotion of the girl child. Ever since schoolgirls were kidnapped in Nigeria, I've not heard them speak. I've not heard them condemned. Have they failed those little girls?
Well, Charles, you're asking me a question that ideally should be placed to somebody else. I would much rather talk about UN Women and what UN Women has done. But I don't negate...
Is the UN Women happy with the silence of African First Ladies? We saw Michelle Obama everywhere on Facebook. She even had to replace President Obama on the weekly presidential address.
UN Women is unhappy about the girls not returning. Our problem is not the silence or the loudness of a particular group. Our problem is Boko Haram that has kidnapped schoolgirls, and that is where we should focus. I think we should not lose energy in looking at who has not said what, but we should be focusing on the source of that problem and saying we need our girls back and we need them safe. We need to send a message that it is good for girls to go to school, because all the efforts that we have made over the time since the Beijing Platform of Action could be destroyed if girls begin to think school is unsafe, if parents begin to feel they are powerless before such extremists like those of Boko Haram, who are threatening not just the education of the girls, but they are threatening their very livelihoods. They're threatening the security of many, many more people. That is where we should focus our attention.
Okay. What has UN Women in particular done to contribute to the release of these girls?
As much as UN Women can do.
Yeah.
We were in Nigeria last week with the executive director, specifically to
Lambon
lend
Kuka
our
Fimzile.
voice. Yes, with Dr. Pumzile Mlambankuka, specifically to lend our voice to the campaign to bring back the girls. We felt it was utterly important for UN Women from the highest level to be present in Nigeria and to say we care and we want our girls back home. We cannot talk about women's empowerment if something as outrageous and as atrocious as the kidnapping of helpless schoolgirls goes on in Nigeria and we are not there even to say one word that we want our girls back. That's why we were in Nigeria. And that's why we will go to other parts of this world where we need to make our voices heard, because we are with the women, we are with the girls, we are with the communities. We want durable development, not development that is being threatened by people who do not care one bit about education, one bit about their fellow human beings. Because if you see what is going on, Charles, you'll agree with me that that is utterly inhuman.
Inhuman, sure.
It is even difficult to
inhuman,
understand.
sure, but you know that when you were in Nigeria,
yes,
you went to Abaji. You did not go to Chibok.
Yes.
If UN Women wants to prove that their forces of good are more than those of Boko Haram, which some people have demonized, why is everybody afraid to go to Chibok, where the epicenter of the issue is? It means that Boko Haram is winning.
Well, you can look at it that way, but I would rather not. Because the fact that you don't fall into the fire does not mean that you don't recognize that that fire is hot. You can stand at the side recognizing that a different step would send the message home. That is why we decided to go as far as we could. If we could have gone to Chibok, if we could have gone to Chibok at the time, we would have gone. But we were not able to go because of the reasons that you yourself raised. The security situation was just not conducive for anybody to travel at that time.
That the entire UN women will not have the necessary security to arrive in Chibok. That sounds very unrealistic.
I'm surprised that you think that is unrealistic, given the number of people who have actually hesitated from going there. I will not even mention them because I think you know them. Yeah? And as UN women, we do not believe that it is putting more people at risk that helps the situation. That is precisely the risk.
What are the key problems facing women today, and the girl child in particular, globally, insofar as UN women is concerned?
Well, this is one rising key problem. When girls' education is being targeted, it is a new one. It is not something that we would have anticipated some years back, but it's something that really, really concerns us. The rising conflicts and the effect that they are having on women and on girls and communities. Just next door here to Cameroon, you have the Central African Republic, and you know what is going there and what that means for women, for girls, and for the entire country. It is taking it many, many years back. We are concerned about the violence against women and girls, violence that specifically targets women and specifically targets girls. Issues like rape. Rape is something that ought not to be heard of in any society. And it's amazing that we are seeing rising levels, and especially in conflict situations. No wonder the Secretary General found it necessary to appoint a special rapporteur for violence against women in conflict situations. Just next month, the United Kingdom will be holding a summit on violence against women in conflict situations, showing that this is a matter that is gaining interest, importance, but that it is becoming an increasing concern, not just of UN women, but of many, many other partners. We're concerned about the fact that in many countries, we have not been able to even reach the threshold of 30% of women in leadership positions. I cannot say that we're not making progress. Here in Cameroon, in the last parliamentary elections, you were able to get to 31%. And I want to take the opportunity of your show, Charles, to congratulate the Cameroonian women, to congratulate all those that have worked to get to that point. You're not a politician. Yeah. You should consider it at some point, the way you ask questions. But that is one area that we are concerned about, but at the same time, seeing progress.
I'm sure the Minister of Women Affairs granted you an audience for that message to go through. Let me go back to the schoolgirls in Nigeria. You know the campaign which was done about Malala Yousafzai when she was attacked by the Taliban in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, I beg your pardon. But we have not seen such kind of global mobilization concerning the school girls in Nigeria, concerning girls in the Central African Republic. The former British Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, even went to the United Nations. The European Union awarded Malala Yousafzai the Sakharov Prize. Why is there this gap insofar as funding and mobilization is concerned?
I think we can try and separate the issues without splitting hairs. One is that we're looking at a situation that is still ongoing, and the campaign around the Chibok girls is actually intensifying. Just 2 days ago, there was a campaign to wear red. So if you had met me then, you'd have seen me in my red outfit. And we're still doing a campaign for so many, in many other places. In all UN women offices, we've actually mounted the campaign to raise the advocacy for Bring Back Our Girls. And this has picked momentum. It's an issue that is ongoing. If you take the issue of Malala, for example, the fact that they were able to get her out and you had a face before you that you could link to the issue at hand also promotes the advocacy. At this point in time, what is the face behind this? We're seeing groups that we are also not able to bring out. But I assure you, it is not for lack of interest or advocacy. I think for us in Africa and for the world all over, women activists, women's human rights activists, all of us are focusing our energies on the message of bring back the girls. And already in our own offices, in our office in Nigeria, in our offices across the world, we're trying, and in our own headquarters, led by Executive Director Dr. Pumzile Mlambo-Nguka, we're putting together a plan also to see when they come out, what is the response that is necessary. Because you can imagine for the period of time that they have been in captivity, there is some degree of trauma that has to be dealt with. There's a level of psychosocial destabilization that has to be addressed. And we are preparing ourselves for that as well. We want to be ready, not just to campaign for their release, but to be ready when they are released on how they are reintegrated into society. And this is important for all of us. And I want to ask you to keep raising that message as well, that we need to be ready for their release, because they will be released.
You are principally tasked with the management of West and Central Africa.
Yes.
Which are the problems facing women and girls in particular in this region of the world, which are different from, let's say, East Africa, where you come from, or Asia?
I don't know that the problems are vastly different. I think to a large extent, when we look globally at the issues of women, we are still seeing that in many of the countries, when we look at the poor people, we see a majority that are women. And this is across the globe. When we look at issues of leadership that I alluded to earlier, you still see that there's an underrepresentation of women in all these positions of decision making. When you look at the business world, and I've just been reading some books on that, you notice that it's really in the 70s and 80s that you begin to see women entrepreneurs coming up and owning businesses, driving in huge investments and things like that. So this is still catch-up stage for women. So across the board, I think women are still underrepresented in very many areas. When we look at the issues of maternal mortality, for example, I think in West and Central Africa, that is a huge problem. And it's huger, because I believe, because of the conflicts that the region has endured. If you look at East Africa, for example, the figures are slightly lower than that. It doesn't mean that they're something to write home about. They're just slightly lower, because all these things are accentuated in conflict situations or in situations of instability. When I look at the issue of schooling and literacy, I think there's a slightly more serious problem in the same countries, and I think it arises out of the conflict and destabilizing situations that the countries have had to live through.
The Beijing Fourth Conference on the Empowerment of Women will be marking its 20th anniversary this year and next year, and it will be a major opportunity for UN women to discuss how far they have gone and what is left to be done. What will be the particular message?
Well, do I really want to anticipate that? I'm not sure that I do.
I know that you have already launched a global campaign which has to do with informing people on what has been done already. So
and where the gaps are. We're looking at the both sides
what are
of
the
the
benchmarks?
equilibrium. First, you know, we had the 12 areas of the Beijing platform. One of them, education. We've looked at the progress in education. The experience is varied. It is not uniform. In some countries, we've made huge progress. It has been boosted by the Millennium Development Goals. We've seen a higher enrollment of girls in primary school. We still have a challenge of girls at the secondary and tertiary levels, where we see many dropping out. We have, say, in the case of leadership, I've already spoken on that. In the case of health, we still have major challenges on both infant, child, and maternal mortality. Those are huge challenges that we still be facing. In terms of extreme poverty and hunger, the progress that we have made is not sufficient, because in all our countries, we can still talk of cases where women are still extremely poor, where we have a huge part of our population that's extremely poor, rural most of the time, and we're still seeing that allocation of resources to these priorities remains a major challenge. That is why at UN Women, we really would like to promote the issue of gender-responsive planning and budgeting, so that we are able to bring some equilibrium, some balance to the way we address the priorities of our populations. So the message coming on then, we must be like, we've made progress, but not enough. We still need to do a lot more to achieve the vision of Beijing.
Imagine that you were given the responsibility of chief policy designer for the next stage after the 20th anniversary. What will be your principal target as the first problem to be resolved?
The first problem to be resolved, if I was going back to the Beijing Platform of Action, is participation. For me, it begins with that, because as long as our people are excluded, a part of the population is excluded, a lot more other things are unable to be addressed, because that voice is not present. We need to bring that voice to the table. The second issue is regards the way women use their time. Most of them are in agriculture, and that's a great part of our population, you'll agree. But most women who try to make a livelihood do so in agriculture. They do not have title deeds, so they have no property rights. This is an important part that needs to be addressed, looking at women getting title to the land that they cultivate, the land that they work. That's an extremely important issue across the region. When I have been visiting countries, that comes up again and again. We need to look at the force of tradition and its positive and its not so positive impact, and deal with the not so positive impact for women and girls.
Okay. Do you like watching music?
Not really. So pick something else. I can pretend to like it.
Okay.
Yes.
When I look at music clips,
yeah.
The way women are portrayed in music,
Yes.
half naked and whatsoever, and they do that with a lot of pleasure. Is it a major concern with the UN women? Because somebody may say okay, they are not serious. When you look at the way women are portrayed in music, half naked, the way they dance with men, is it a worry at the UN women?
Well, that has actually never come up for discussion at UN Women. And I doubt that it will be coming on the table for discussion, because there's several issues involved, and this is purely personal. People have a right to live their lives. People have a right to live their lives.
Music is an industry, and an industry determines attitudes.
It is an industry.
And perceptions.
It is an industry.
So it's an area you guys have neglected.
You could say that we have neglected it for the love of human rights and for the love of people's freedom. And that, as I said again, is a personal opinion. It is certainly not institutional. But if you ask me, that's the answer I would give you.
Let's talk concretely what UN Women does.
Yes.
In a sentence, what can you tell a Form 4 student or a Form 3 student or a primary school girl that when you see UN Women, this is what it does for you?
When you see UN Women, you should know that UN Women is that body that is committed to achieving gender equality and women's empowerment.
When we talk of gender equality,
and gender equality,
they tend to be too hard for the child.
No, I'm getting there.
Okay.
And this means really removing the discrimination that is in our societies, in our laws, on account of the sex of a person, whether the person is male or female. That should not determine their worth in society. But we have seen that up to now, this remains a major discriminatory factor. And UN Women is an organization that seeks to eliminate that kind of discrimination and to advocate for equal opportunity and equal chances to all, regardless of their gender, regardless of whether they're male or female. And the second thing is to make sure that women who hold the livelihoods of families, of so many other people, are in a position that they can carry out their work without discrimination, that they can be facilitated to do that effectively. And we seek the support not only of governments, but also of communities, of our fellow men and the society as a whole, to ensure that when we look at people, we look at them as individuals, as human beings who have potential and who will not be discriminated because they're either male or female. Does that convince you of what UN Women does? I want to know that.
I think my audience will judge you, because I don't have the authority to judge you, certainly. So my audience will know whether they are convinced or not. Final thoughts.
I was hoping that you would help, but anyway.
I prefer to be silent. Final thoughts. I want to go back to Chibok.
Yes.
When you see what is going on in Chibok,
yes,
in Nigeria,
yes,
you hear of the stories of people like Malala Yousafzai.
yes,
You hear of stories like Amina Lawal.
mm-hmm,
You hear of stories like Fazana in Afghanistan. These women whose lives are in danger.
yes,
You see what is going on in the Central African Republic.
yes.
Are you scared of the future of the girl child in particular?
Yeah, that's a very deep question, Charles. I think deep inside me, I do have some worries. I do have some worries that the demonstration effect could be very negative. It could cause others to decide not to go forward with education, not to take a stand in favor of women or girls, not to stand out for what they believe in. I do have some very deep concerns. Deep inside, I do. But I also have hope. I also have hope that all of us working together can make a change in a small or in a big way. And that's why I would like to urge everybody listening, to put their voice behind the campaign to stop violence against women and girls, to allow everybody, male or female, a free access, equal opportunity. That's why I'd like to urge governments to take seriously the issue of discrimination against women and girls, because some of these things issue out of a belief system. And I think we need to work at those belief systems and change them.
Josephine ODERA, the Regional Director of the United Nations Women Agency for West and Central Africa. Thanks very much for accepting to be guest on my program today.
Thank you, Charles.
You're welcome.
Thank you.